Actually, there's a lot of research that's focusing on by simply having a purpose statement identified, it's going to add up to 7 years of your life because people are more likely to engage in those healthy behaviors, spend time with family members, do those things that I think we take for granted on a daily basis there. So checking in with that, like I said, at least once a month, whether that's, saying that statement out loud, maybe rewriting that purpose statement to align with your current situation can really help people sustain healthy habits in the long run.
Welcome to Fit That Hustle. I'm your host, Mohammed Asfar. Today we're diving into a story of transformation and purpose. My guest, Josh, is a former college football player, dad of 3, and leading expert in health and wellness. With over 10 years of experience, Josh is a clinical instructor of practice at the Ohio State University and a wellness program manager, helping faculty, staff, students, and the broader community achieve sustainable behavior change. If you're looking to balance family life, fitness, and a demanding career, this episode is packed with practical strategies and insights you won't want to miss. How does a former college football player go from selfless athlete to wellness expert, all while helping others achieve sustainable behavior change? Let's hear from Josh himself. Taking care of your health is non-negotiable, especially as a dad on the go. That's why I trust BioSteel for clean hydration without the sugar crash. Use code MNYY147 at checkout for up to 25% off. Let's prioritize health so we can be there for the ones we love. Josh, welcome to Fit That Hustle. Thank you for joining us today. You played college football at Mount Union and even won a national championship. How did your athletic background shape your approach to wellness and discipline?
Yeah, so at Mount, I was an offensive lineman and played guard. I actually played offensive line pretty much my whole life and got to coach it. And, when you're an athlete, we are very purpose-driven individuals. Everything we do from the time that we wake up to the time we go to bed all relates to us being, successful in the, in the classroom or in the field or in the weight room from there. And so in addition to that, being an athlete, being an offensive lineman, we were very selfless people, understanding that teamwork. Our team can't be at its best if the offensive linemen, aren't doing their job from there. So I think that was kind of the starting of how I've looked at wellness and what does it mean to, be at your best. I think that all kind of started to be implemented when I became a dad, at 24. I remember, holding my child. My wife and I weren't married, and holding my child and looking at her bassinet and recognizing that, her last name wasn't mine. That was that, when you talk about mission and everything for the team, everything that I've done in life, I didn't know what to do anymore. And so I kind of made that pact for myself that everything that I do in life is going to only be for that, kind of the team aspect. And that was, while it worked for the first year, it wasn't very sustainable. It did a program at Ohio State, and it helped me rework that purpose. Even if we are purpose driven, there has to be that internal component. I mean, I think adding that and shaping, having my background of, teamwork, by investing in myself on a daily basis, I can help other people be successful. So that's kind of, how being an athlete, being purpose-driven, teamwork has kind of really shaped my wellness approach today.
That's true, because when we, as athletes, like I played high school, I didn't go college. I almost went semi-pro for basketball, just got an injury and all that, didn't work out. But I feel that always that when an athlete who's played in a team sport always has that team spirit when it comes to family, when it comes to they don't just think about themselves. Like even when you become a dad, and a lot of dads become selfless as well, but I think the background of the athletes is, I think they're kind of ready, but they don't know yet until it hits them. You know what I mean? So it becomes we're a team. Like I have my son now, let's go team, right? And then it's about his family. And then his little brother tells him, "You don't have a team. What are you talking about?"
Yeah, I think and to be a team player, you have to do your job. Just like an offense. So I played guard, played left and right, played a little bit of tackle. If you are one step behind from the tackle or the center, you can't function as a unit. And so you have to do your own part. And I think that's something that I that I understood, but, understood the action piece, but the why around that was, what I didn't realize as it went into, becoming a dad. And, by investing in yourself on a daily basis or weekly basis, you can better the team there.
That's true. That's true. I agree. So you've spent over a decade in health and wellness. What inspired you to pursue this field, and how has it evolved over the years?
Yeah. Great question. So I've been an athlete pretty much my whole life. I think I started playing sports at 4. And so when I went to college, I actually wanted to become an athletic trainer, and that was quickly shot down. Went to then transition into PA school, or wanted to go into becoming a physician assistant, and that didn't work out as well. So when I graduated, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something in the wellness aspect, but I didn't know what that was. When we first found out that my wife was pregnant, I actually went back and got my master's in exercise science and health promotion. And that's where I found this love of corporate wellness. So working in workplace settings and addressing those healthy behaviors. And then after I graduated, I started working at Ohio State. Actually did a little bit of internship at one of our local schools, and got a role at Ohio State as a wellness coordinator, focusing on one of our workplace wellness programs, and haven't left ever since. Loving what I'm doing now in a more faculty role. So I work with students. I also direct the program that I talked about earlier, and it's called Health Athlete. So I get to help people, identify their purpose and, work on that one-on-one component and helping people achieve that healthy lifestyle behaviors.
Awesome. Now, so as a clinical instructor of practice at Ohio State, you teach and mentor students, like you mentioned, and faculty on wellness topics. What are some of the key principles you focus on when it comes to behavior change?
Yeah, I think that, when we look at students, they are naive as far as what goes into an actual behavior change. They're so focused on the behavior itself rather than, the supporting aspects. And that's something that I'm really, in several of the courses that I teach, we can address the behavior itself, but it's not just, it's more to that. It's more on the environmental piece, looking at what are some of the more apparent barriers that are present in people's lives, and then coaching them through as future health practitioners and whatever realm that may be on how to address them, whether they're simple behaviors to more complex societal behaviors. So I think, that aspect from there. The other thing I really focus on, especially in my health coaching course, is autonomy. So I'm a board certified health and wellness coach, and one of the key components that we focus on is helping people engage in behaviors on their own. And that's where we see that sustainability with behavior change occurs, when you're able to take your own ownership of your actions and understand how to become more resilient on your own, by yourself. You're more likely to achieve that higher state of well-being from there. So those are probably the two, environmental piece and then the autonomy.
Yeah, I feel that environment is like the most important one, because also you got to look at their background as well, right? Is that something that you look at?
Yeah.
Like how they were raised, I think is something will be one part. How they were communicated when certain behaviors happened in their lives, how did they, for example, a parent behave towards that? Or some parents are like, oh, yeah, well, a mistake is a mistake, it's fine, right? And then they just, it's like something normal for them. While another parent probably will be like, no, they get really angry. So it all depends on, I think, some of that background as well. Is that something you look at as well?
Yeah, and actually, when you're looking at a lot of the mental health that we're seeing in our society right now, you're actually, we can take it a few generations back and looking at how parental upbringing, impacts mental health. What we find is that those that were in more of that hostile environment or severe disciplines, I know that's what I had growing up, and many people in the 90s and pre-AS had that, and now we're seeing some of the consequences. And so not only now are we trying to address the consequence of that, but when you look at more parenting programming, looking at an alternative way rather than focusing on the negative, you're trying to focus on the positive first with your kids. I coach Little League baseball. I remember growing up in my Pee Wee coaches, it was always very aggressive coaching in nature. And now it's switched, which I know there's some controversy around that, but if we're able to build this positivity, with our kids first, they can gravitate better to programming.
Yeah, I agree. I've talked to coaches who are parents as well, and they say the same thing. They start with the positive first. Yeah. So you're also pursuing your PhD in health and human performance. What are you researching, and how will it contribute to the field of wellness?
Yeah. So my research looks at workplace wellness and how delivering vitality-based programs affect the health and well-being of particularly faculty staff at universities. And so I know we'll talk about it later on, but when we look at energy, human energy, it's that substance in our life that allows for us to engage in a variety of things. And what we find is that vitality is limited or is based upon our physiological and psychological state. So by educating individuals on different healthy lifestyle behaviors, exercise, nutrition, stress management, we're able to enhance the vitality of the individual, which allows for them to have a better quality of life from there. My aim is looking at how do we deliver those types of programs. So a lot of the literature right now focuses on in-person programming, but like I'm sure many of your listeners, many of us work in a hybrid environment, and offering just in-person programmings is limiting who we can target. So if we're able to show that virtual programmings can be just as effective or even more effective in an in-person, it could really help our field in workplace wellness to adopt these types of practices within their particular.
That's amazing. It's something that I've seen like it's evolving, because I don't feel like way back, maybe when we were kids, they had something like that, and I feel like the performance of the corporate world and even like students, even when I see like with my kids, my still are still young, right? I've already started with them with mental toughness. You know what I mean? And they know the nutrition, they know the fitness, and the all the sports that they play in the basketball, soccer, and the swimming. And they not just hear it from me. And I work with them with their fitness performance, right? Or also their performance in their basketball or soccer. I just tell them what they need to work on, and then the rest, the coach takes care of it, right? So that as well, I feel it wasn't there with parents back then, you know what I mean? And also I'm seeing like what you're working with as well, with more professionals with their wellness, it's something that wasn't there either. And I feel like that's improving the work environment too, and like way better than before. I feel, I don't know what you're looking, it's your research, so I think you probably know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think in future iterations of this research, if we're able to enhance virtual-based vitality programs, we can start to look at, how does this affect productivity, absenteeism, things of that nature. So I would say that this work is relatively recent in addressing healthy behaviors in the workplace, and then attaching that into, other other metrics in the workplace, such as, ROI and VOI. That's where you're starting to see a lot of the research focus on.
So what's one common mistake people make when trying to adopt healthier habits, and how can they avoid it?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm a board certified health and wellness coach. Within health and wellness coaching, one of the models that we utilize is the Transtheoretical model, which is kind of a step-by-step approach going from not wanting to change to full integration and autonomy with our behaviors. And what we typically find is that people are typically in this contemplation phase where they want to change, yet they have some barriers that have, preventing them to change. And then when they see this idea for engaging activity, they haven't set up that structure, which is done within what we call the preparation phase. And so by skipping that, well, yes, that gets you to exercise or eat healthier or, address your stress management. The moment that a barrier or some type of obstacle gets in your way, we have to
deal with it. You can't deal with it, right?
I always think of it kind of as like the whole story about building a house on sand versus rock, or that you can build your foundation first, which focusing on relationships, focusing on identifying early on what are those barriers, and then some solutions to address them. I can really help people be more, successful. So I think by taking that time first before diving right in to address those relationships, the cues, addressing what might be some barriers, I think people can be more successful with implementing whatever behavior that they want to achieve.
So what's important is that you have to have all the elements together. You gotta have that formula together, right? So that if you skip one, then like you just said, you probably just get lost or you just can't deal with it or something like that, right? So,
And that's why, when you look at New Year's resolutions,
Yeah.
New Year's resolutions are so popular, right? But
yeah,
and that typically by the end of the month, most people aren't in it, anymore. When you look at exercise, people start off with great intentions, and then, week 2 happens and they're back at work, or maybe they exercise too hard and now they're super sore and they don't know how to get rid of that soreness.
Yeah.
So they ouch, and, they lose that interest. And so, yeah, to your point, by building that formula first for success and then taking it one step at a time, people are able to more sustainably achieve those goals that they set.
As a dad of 3, you know how challenging it can be to balance family, fitness, and career. What's your approach to prioritizing wellness without sacrificing other areas of life?
Yeah, this is, I think, a big challenge for anybody on how do we balance, our work and things. I think one of the challenges that we have with work-life balance is that typically they're separate.
Yeah.
And so now you're starting to see some of the literature around, work-life balance or home-life balance being work-life integration, recognizing that all of that together really impacts your well-being. And so one thing that I've started to do with that, especially with exercise used to be a dad-only time. Don't interrupt dad when he's down in the basement. He's down there to integrating my kids into that time.
Yeah.
They love to go downstairs and hang on the pull-up bar or ride the bicycle. While I'm maybe not able to exercise at a high intensity, I'm still exercising.
Yeah. It's a family activity, right?
It's a family activity. And same thing with, eating. My kids want to start cooking. I, caution on what types of foods we eat and, try to take a bite with caution from there. But, that integration of their wants and needs with my wants and needs and my wife's wants and needs, by having that more family approach into my health and wellness has been helped me, I would say, be, successful in prioritizing wellness without any type of sacrifices.
Yeah, and it's very important to have our kids learn the good habits at a very young age, fitness, the nutrition, eating right. And like for me, for example, I let them eat the candy or whatever because I don't want to be so strict with them. But like, the 80-20 rule, so I just follow that. And it's not like they're eating it too much. They have that nutrition, they're healthy, they're eating well, and they're athletes, so they're burning a lot of calories, So just have some, just indulge. It's not a big deal. They're burning it out and good.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a good point with the 80-20 rule. I mean, we're human. It would be great that for us to eat broccoli and chicken for every meal, but there's people in our lives that just we want to indulge in things, and that's okay.
Exactly.
Making that, changing our mindsets to allowing for those one types of foods or those one types of activities, can be another great way to prioritizing our wellness without sacrificing any other area in life.
Exactly. And something that I always tell my clients, I'm like, you can always burn it out, so don't worry about it. But as long as you don't do too much of it.
Yeah, I like that's what we promote, the 80-20 rule at Ohio State. And I think just adopting that has been a big mind shift.
So you've talked about the difference between time management and energy management. Can you explain that concept and how it applies to busy dads?
Yeah. So time management, when we look at barriers for healthy living, one of them is time management. We think, I know, for example, for today, my kids, rolled into our bedroom at 7:00, ready to rock and roll. So a lot of us are, busy from the time that we wake up to the time that we go to bed. But what we find when you look at time is constant. We can't control time. We can't pause time from there. So it's really hard to manipulate our time throughout the day. And even if I were to give you 30 minutes, to do whatever you want, typically it's not done in a more healthy way. You're doing something else from there. So rather than focusing on time management, we can look at that energy management as well. And by looking at energy management, we can look at where we are spending most of our energy throughout our day. A lot of times people, dads that are working, they're in meetings after meetings after meetings, and their energy levels are just plummeting. And what happens when we get home, when our day's constantly busy? We don't want to talk to kids. We want to sit on the couch, leave dad alone again. So if we're able to manipulate our energy levels throughout the day by, having that meeting and then taking a break right after, we're able to sustain our energy levels throughout the day and put that to good use, when we get home or in areas that, really bring out the best in ourselves.
Yeah. There's a lot of like high performance coaches that they say that, if you give yourself a break, like every 30, 40 minutes that you're working, and that's gonna sustain your energy. You're not gonna be drained out. You can spread out your work during the day. Whether you want to do 2 hours of work, or it depends on if you're a self-employee or whatever, or you're working full-time. Of course, full-time is an 8-hour job or more. Then you just split it, and then every half hour, 40 minutes, go back and do your work. And I've done that, and to be honest with you, it works great for me. Like when I tell my kids, I take breaks like 30 minutes, 40 minutes every time, and they're like, oh really? And I'm like, yeah, why not? You need it, because if I'm doing a lot of work and I have a project or something like that, I used to do that like 10 years ago. I exhaust myself, right? But it's not the right way to do it, because you feel so tired and exhausted.
Yeah. One thing that we started to promote at Ohio State is, schedule that 60-minute meeting with, that person or that team from there, but only meet for that 50 minutes. You think about, meetings that we're in, probably the first 5-10 minutes were, checking in with people, seeing how everyone's doing. And really the meeting doesn't start until, 15 minutes in. And so, with energy management, we're more focused during that 15-minute time frame.
Yeah.
In that 10-minute time frame, we can invest in whatever that is, whether it is that social connection or investing in ourselves, whatever that may be from there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that whole oscillation is what we promote within energy management. It can really help sustain those levels throughout the day.
That's awesome. So what's one practical tip you would give to dads struggling to find time for fitness amidst everything else?
Yeah. So I think kind of taking a step back with energy management, I'm a big believer in purpose. If something is important to you, then you're going to invest in that time frame. And I think that's a conversation that people need to have within themselves. If exercise is vital to your success in life, then you need to find that time throughout the day. And, weighing out, things that we do throughout the day, whether that's important to us or not. If it is important, then we can keep it. If it's not important, then that's when we can add in that exercise from there. The other thing, kind of said before is, you can get into, stack it or habit stacking. When you're exercising, maybe it's time with your kids, you're exercising together. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. You look at, when you look more into the habit stacking piece, every time that you go to the bathroom, you do 5 push-ups. When you look at the recommendations for exercise, it's 150 minutes of moderate intensity throughout the week. And, that recommendation of what's considered about has actually changed from 10 minutes to 5 minutes to 2 minutes. And now, the recommendation is any type of movement throughout the day can go towards that 150 minutes. So if you are struggling and you can't find that time, adding it, stacking it in your day is great. Or looking at other ways that we're moving. Now that the sun is out and it's springtime, I'm sure many dads are starting to mow. I know it takes me about an hour to mow from there. There's 60 minutes of movement. And so looking at our movement throughout the day can also be beneficial to, meeting that recommendation.
Yeah, like you brought a great point, because sometimes fitness not necessarily means that, like there are some people that don't want to exercise, they don't want to lift weights, they don't want to do all that stuff, but you can do fitness in a different way, exercise in a different way. On the mall, you can just walk, or if you have a pet or something, you just walk your pet, and that is also a type of, like you said, it's a movement. You just got to do some movement, and that's how you got to be able to get your body, moving, or else you're just going to be stiff. You're not going to get that. You're not going to have that focus, it's also a mental thing as well, because you need that movement no matter how you do it, because at the end of the day, everybody has different goals, So if somebody doesn't really want to lift weights, I can't tell them, well, yeah, you got to lift weights. No, he's like, I just want to walk, or something like that. And that's good for him. So that's something that's very important that we have to be able to, it all depends on that person's level as well, and the goals that they want to set as well.
Yeah. With that, even parking, as we go to these, soccer fields, baseball fields, whatever it is, trying to park away as far as possible. I like the click lists that you have at the grocery stores, because it does limit how much of your extra spending that you have, which is great. But, there's nothing, when you think about like physical activity, going in and purchasing your food, you're doing your walking from there. So that's something that you can consider. Yeah. And even, standing at the fields. I know I'd like to bring my lawn chair to sit and watch the kids, but I try to find a time at least, to stand throughout their practices or out there from there. So yeah, shifting the mindset, can help you get in those extra minutes throughout the day.
I agree. So as a wellness program manager at Ohio State, you design and deliver innovative wellness offerings. What are some of the most effective programs you've implemented, and how can listeners apply these ideas in their own lives?
Yeah. So ever since COVID, we've kind of shifted our offerings. We've gone to more virtual route, and I think that's great, engaging in those. But the most successful programs that we've had have had some form of play added into them. So we offer a dodgeball tournament every year. We have a game. We have an event called the Amazing Race to Wellness, which is based upon the TV show Amazing Race. We've done a big boot camp in the SHU at Ohio State. If you're familiar with that, that's a big attraction. But that sense of play, I think, is something that's missing in our society. I just attended a conference this past week, and we talked about, in our work days, we're so focused on the tangible things that we don't take that time to play for ourselves. So adding in that sense of play, whether it is with exercise, whether it is with nutrition, can be impactful not only from a physical stance, but also from a psychological stance. And that's where I see a lot of our programming really focusing on, which allows for those social connections to happen at work or at home from there.
Awesome stuff. So how do you help people stay motivated and committed to their wellness goals over the long term?
Yeah. So I think the biggest recommendation that I have is connecting in with that purpose. So identifying, what is truly important in your life. Think of that kind of as your North Star, and then something that you constantly check in on a weekly, monthly, bi-monthly basis from there. And so if that, when we have that purpose statement identified for ourselves, it's going to enhance our overall motivation to engaging in some of the behaviors. Actually, there's a lot of research that's focusing on by simply having a purpose statement identified, it's going to add up to 7 years of your life, because people are more likely to engage in those healthy behaviors, spend time with family members, do those things that I think we take for granted on a daily basis there. So checking in with that, like I said, at least once a month, whether that's, saying that statement out loud, maybe rewriting that purpose statement to align with your current situation, can really help people sustain healthy habits in the long run.
Awesome. Good stuff. What role does community play in achieving sustainable behavior change?
Yeah, I know we talked about this a little bit. There's so much that goes into behavior change than the actual activity. There's, really, I tell this with my students, it's more based upon the environment. When you have that social support network identified, whether it's a single person or group of individuals, they're there to support you along that journey. When you have those hiccups that occur, which are inevitable, they're there to catch you and help you land on your feet moving forward. So whether it's identifying a friend, a family member, a coach, whether that's a professional coach, or can really help, individuals build upon different ideas, help you keep accountable in your pursuit for, living a healthy life.
So what's your vision for the future of wellness, and how do you hope your work will impact diverse populations?
Yeah, I think my vision is that, I hope that we're able to identify all of the barriers that are present, in the workplace for myself, but in our current society, and not only identifying them, but provide, practical solutions, evidence-based, solutions to address them. I know that this is challenging in our current time, going on in our society, but I think that there's a lot of people that are invested in this space, invested in different community groups around our nation, to helping people succeed based upon their current circumstances.
Awesome. And how do you hope your journey influences your kids' approach to health and wellness?
Yeah. I go back to the story I told you about my daughter, and recognizing that by investing in yourself, you can help other people be successful. And I think it's being that role model for the kids. That's something that's part of my legacy. My purpose is that I get to be a husband. I get to be a father every day to help people sustain healthy behaviors. And so I hope that they're able to, when my time has come, they can look back and say, Dad was a great model for myself, and allowing for them to invest in the community.
That's awesome. And what legacy do you hope to leave through your work in wellness and behavior change?
Yeah, I think emphasizing that foundation, like I said before, So many people jump right into exercise or jump right into healthy eating and things like that. And while they have great intentions, that their foundation can be rocked, almost immediately. And so by taking that time to identify what's your purpose, identifying the environment and the community, the reward systems, by addressing those pieces earlier on within the wellness programming, I hope that we can have more healthier workplaces in our society.
Thank you, Josh, for sharing your powerful journey with us today. Your story demonstrates how purpose and wellness can transform not just your fitness, but your entire life. From the football field to the classroom, you're proving that wellness is about more than just physical health. It's about sustainable behavior, change, and living a purpose-driven life. If Josh can transition from selfless athlete to wellness expert while helping others achieve sustainable behavior change, imagine what you can achieve. His journey shows that true wellness comes from aligning your actions with your purpose. Whether you're a busy dad, a professional juggling multiple roles, or someone looking to make lasting change in your health, taking that first step is crucial. Ready to start your own transformation story? Book a call with me today and let's create a fitness strategy that builds both physical and mental resilience. Remember, as Josh shows us, real wellness lies in taking care of yourself so you can take care of others. Let's make it happen. And thanks to Biosif for powering this podcast. When you're working on building strength like Josh, staying hydrated and energized is key, especially for busy dads. Use code MNYY1417 for up to 25% off your next order. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with a dad who might need to hear this message of purpose and wellness. Until next time, stay strong, stay purposeful, and keep hustling.